Rob from the Golden Bearcast and Right for Cal. Rob Hwang, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, appreciate the time, guys.
No problem at all, man. We have been seeing Cal Twitter have its moment online for weeks now. And I talked to you about a week and a half ago, like, hey, I want to get you on the show. I know you're going to Doak Campbell. You guys are hot right now. Let's get a Cal guest on here, new member of the ACC. And you're like, I think I have to put it off a week. So here we are, where you got game day. In that time, you guys managed to get game day.
Yeah.
How you feeling, man? How are the vibes over there in Berkley?
It's it hasn't been this high in a very long time.
Okay.
I think the thing with game day too is like, I don't think any person in the fan base was like, this is the year we get game day. I think there were a few years in the past, over the last 15, 20 years, where we're like, oh, this is the year. This is the year we get game day. But then for it to be this year, and in the circumstances that we are right now, just it wasn't in the script. So it's insane. Cal Twitter and Calgorithm just exploding has only helped that. You know, I'm in a bunch of Twitter DM group chats with the burners and all the other Calgorithm guys. Like we're bouncing ideas on, posters and signages for game day, just how to get as many people out there as possible, where to get these things printed. Do we print extra posters for people to hold? It's crazy. And it's been like this for the last 48 hours since that announcement on Saturday.
So I want to give our listeners kind of a lay of the land with Cal. Do me a favor, Rob. If there's a gain on your mic, just turn it up just a little bit, because I want to make sure you're loud and clear.
All right, there you go. Does that help you out a bit?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Awesome.
Cal started off the season really strong. They were 3-0. They get the win at Auburn, and it did light that fire into Cal Twitter. We started hearing about the Calgorithm. Bigger accounts are talking about they've been infected with the Calgorithm. And prior to FSU, the memes and the AI graphics were completely out of control. And I just want to start this with a couple ones here. I've got this. I think the one on the top right, the Hokie and the bear shaking hands, is from Shelton. And then you've got the woke agenda, the bear getting vaxxed with kind of like a Care Bear look to it. That's our first graphic, but it kind of sets the field and the vibe for what was going on Twitter if you're not plugged in. And it was weird. Like, it is really weird stuff. What they're doing is they're really leaning into like the California, we're the radical left, to the point that you're jokingly referred to as communists, the commies, or Karl Marx, and all these references to Mother Russia, or God knows what. It's so weird.
It's I mean, the guys who have made these memes have just done an outstanding job. I mean, you just look at that. That's
the bottom left, the let's learn critical race theory with the pentagram is one of the funniest things I've ever seen on twitter.com.
Yes.
Ever in my life.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, the one that started it all off was by Dom Grizel, the one that says like, you lost to the woke agenda. That one was the one that really was the.
I don't even know. See, I gathered so many. I don't even know if I have that one. I have the one that says you lost to Gavin Newsom, which is ridiculous. I love the one of Oski with the Terminator pistol and the FSU head. We got 3-2-1 Noel with the rainbow hair, and the one like the woke Campbell Stadium. I feel like that terminology, what really like fired it into a new stratosphere, because FSU Twitter is very engaged online, and that back and forth took this whole thing to a new level. And I was rooting for you guys so badly to get that win down there.
Yeah, I think we all were. It was like we were the darlings of college football Twitter, and it just sucks that we couldn't deliver, but we get another opportunity. Like, we didn't think we'd get another opportunity, and here we have it with Game Day and Top 10 Miami coming in town.
Yeah, how nuts is it that you guys finally get Game Day, and it is after a loss and after a bye? Like, it's really bizarre. And you know what, Rob? We did you a freaking favor, because if we beat Miami, they're probably not coming to Berkeley this week.
They're definitely
it's
not.
True. It's 100% true. I know most of the guys that were watching the game were like, let's just Let's just have Florida. Let's just have Miami just win this casually. Maybe Virginia Tech makes this a relatively close game, but just a simple win. But then no, it had to delve into the chaos of hopefully what happens over on this side, which is formerly Pac-12 After Dark, and you just see some of that chaos ensue. And we got a glimpse of that on a Friday night in Miami, and hopefully more of that happens on the West Coast.
What's funny about the Cal Twitter verse that at least I noticed when I was trying to find, I messaged Sam, I messaged a few other people. I'm like, what's the Cal go-to account? Like, what's the one that we should get on? Who's talking about Cal? And I'm looking through, and it's like, none of the accounts are like really big accounts. It's just like so many accounts that have 400 to 1,500 followers, like probably a good 40 of them. And I followed all of them to try to see who would come to the top of the heap that I would like, okay, this guy's plugged in. And then I found your podcast. And so I wanted to have you on, and you also do the stuff with Right for Cal. So you've been doing this a long time, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've been, the podcast has been going since 2015. The site, we were originally part of SB Nation under the moniker of California Golden Blogs. Okay. And that was years before I even joined. So yeah, it's close. This site's been going probably for close to 20 years.
And you mentioned someone's name with how it started, and you think that actually did this start this year or was it last year?
For
like Calgorithm stuff.
I mean, we've always been around. We've had this little pocket of the Twitter universe. No one's really tapped into it. I mean, I think a lot of the other Pac-12 teams and their sites and their podcasts like knew of us. We always used to have a good back and forth with Oregon's website, Addicted to Quack, and the Quack 12 podcast. Like, those guys are great. And
what a great name.
Wait. We're not going to Addicted to Quack.
Oh, Addicted to Quack. Yeah, that is that's the Oregon site. Hithliday over there does a great job. If you guys ever get a chance to talk with him, he's probably the best football like game analyzer that I've seen in the Pac-12 side of things. But yeah, I mean, they used to call us Addicted to Quack South. We used to call them California Golden Blogs North. It was just, there was always a good banter with all these fan bases and the sites, and even in the Pac-12, like Ashley Adamson, who was the studio host for the Pac-12 network, like, she's texted us since we exploded. She's like, she was so happy for us. She's like, it couldn't have happened to a better group of people and the fan base that we've always interacted with. And so, like, I think a small pocket of people knew, but the fact that it just took on this elite tier, which I guess happens to you if you beat Hugh Freeze, just exploded on us.
Because everyone loves when Hugh Freeze loses.
Exactly.
We all win when that happens.
I mean, most of us were there at Auburn, and we didn't realize this was happening. And then, the morning after, we wake up and we're like, why are notifications exploding? Like, why is our follower numbers just exponentially increasing? And it was all because of people finding out about Calgorithm and all the memes that we were generating.
I got to ask you a few questions about Cal and the move to the ACC that they're doing this year. First off, you make this move. I think Cal fans were really for it, really excited for it to kind of, I guess, jump on a life raft at the dead end of the Pac-12. What has it been like and getting started? I mean, your first ACC game is a road trip all the way to Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah.
Like, what has it been like as a fan to just have your schedule and your rivalries just switch?
It's been kind of sad and crazy all at the same time. Like, when the announcement was first made, it was kind of like a sigh of relief, like we survived. But then we also have friends, that are Washington State fans and Oregon State fans, and like, it's a bit of survivor's remorse, right? It's like, yeah, we made it through, but like, at what cost? And then, then going into the ACC and all of this, like, we were worried about the travel, like, how many games would fans actually go to? Like, what would our contingent of fans traveling look like, compared to the likes of LA and Oregon and Seattle? Like, it's this cross country.
You guys have the most travel miles of any team, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I think Stanford's just right behind us.
Mhm.
And if not for the Auburn trip, I think we dip a little bit below 2, but that was already pre-scheduled years ago. So
And USC has a ton. I mean, USC,
yeah.
if you look at their schedule, it's Minnesota, then it's back,
Yeah.
then it's Michigan, it's back, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely nuts for them too. So that is very difficult to get used to.
Yeah.
And later in the season, I feel like could have an impact on the field.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good social study experiment, right? Like we just won't know until after the fact, and the players go through all this, where we actually start to see the impacts of it. Basketball is like going to be a whole different issue. Just looking at our schedule for this upcoming season, at least for football. Like I've talked to the players, I've talked to the staff, and our coach Justin Wilcox. Someone asked him about the travel, and he's sick of answering that question about travel at this point. So he's like sarcastically like, there's this new invention called airplanes and they go really fast. But I mean, for football, the guys don't see it as much of a problem because you're only traveling, I think 6 times, at most. And none of these are real back-to-back travel situations where we're going to be traveling out to Tallahassee and then the week after we're like traveling out to Wake Forest. Like they've done a good job of staggering the travel a little bit, and most of the time they're home. So in that regard, I think they're okay with it. But once again, as you guys alluded to, like just the long-term travel and the toll that's going to take is going to be very, very interesting to look forward to.
How important was it for Cal fans to keep the rivalry with Stanford intact in conference?
That was huge. Absolutely huge. And I don't think we make the move. I don't think, nor does Stanford, I think, really make the move if it wasn't for one or the other. I think it definitely was a joint operation in that regard. The fan bases hate each other, but they also are like a joined to the hip with traditions that are intact with those two universities, not just on the football field. So to have that go together where the big game remains and, we can keep that continuity, at least there's some form of those things. The axe, just stays in between the two, and we don't have to worry about it being a out of conference game and fitting it into our schedule, and seeing like Oregon State and Oregon play like in September is just a weird thing to see.
Weird, really weird.
So yeah, it's definitely been great, and we've joked around that there's a little bit of a truce between Cal fans and Stanford fans, at least, or the 2 or 3 Stanford fans that exist for at least the duration of this year.
I do like how you guys will rag on the fact that like there's not a ton of Cal fans out there, but the ones that are in on it, like they're all the way in, and that's really cool. And hey, we've got more than Stanford. We've got more than this team. And that's an ongoing joke as well that presents itself online. On the field, you guys have been solid. And I mentioned the 3-0 start. Unfortunately, you lose to FSU. Mm-hmm. That's a talented team. You're on the road. You've already traveled to Auburn. No shame in that loss. There really isn't, despite how bad FSU has played. Would you say that the team has performed how you expected before the season? Have they exceeded expectations, or is it just par?
That's a good question. There's a little bit of within the fan base and within the writers on our site too. Like there's a little bit of a let's push this question out in a couple weeks, and I think the reason being is because we just haven't had all the bodies we thought would make impacts on this team, at least offensively, within the roster. But for me, I think the offense has definitely been under par. And underperformed. I think the defense has definitely exceeded expectations. I thought they would get to somewhat of this point maybe later in the year, but for them to come out firing like that all season long has definitely been a very nice surprise.
Yeah.
And we thought this was a team that had a chance this year. When we talked preseason, Pete, like, we were talking about, hey, Jay Knott, really good. Mendoza got better as the season went on, kind of took control of that job. The defense, they're probably not going to play that bad again. Like we were talking about Cal as a team that really sleepy West Coast team. Everyone was saying, SMU is the one who can make the jump, Stanford in year 2, like, how are they going to look? But I was like, Cal, probably the best team at all those 3. And it's showing right now. I do think the challenge will be the longevity of this. Like, can they keep it going week to week? I think they have a really big opportunity this week that it just doesn't come along a lot. for programs. And especially in the ACC, like you're not going to host a top 10 team very often
on game day.
On game, like it does not happen.
It's literally never happened for Cal, and not only is it game day, but it is a top 10 team, and it's the Miami Hurricanes. So the opportunity is there. And Sam talked about your defense. It's number 16 in yards per play. Now I know the schedule has been a little weird, but like 16 in yards per play is still not too shabby. What would you say the strength of that defensive unit is?
I think look, the variance is so high for turnovers, but the turnovers have just been significant for us. And the reason I'm hesitant to like buy totally into the turnover hype is because even in 2015, when we had Jared Goff, when we were heading into Utah, and game day was at Utah in that game, we were leading the country in turnovers, and we're like, this defense is amazing. Like we can sustain this, but like, no, it fell off for the second half of the season with just so much variance. And so, like, although we have Noel Williams, who's a top 5, I think, or top 3, I think, in interceptions, like, I don't think that stat line can hold. But I think our pass defense has taken a very big step forward compared to last season, and that was our biggest issue. Is we just were giving up big play after big play, big after big play through the air. But these guys have locked it down. Noel Williams has taken a step up. Marcus Harris, our transfer from Idaho, has been very, very good. Of course, Woodson, our captain for the week as well. If your name is Woodson and you play in the backfield, you have a lot to live up to, and he's definitely done that so far. And then I think the biggest one is just seeing our pass rush take a step up with Ryan McCullough, a sophomore who I think is top 10 in the country in quarterback hurries, I believe.
You guys have a lot of hurries, and if you look at the pass defense, you talked about the secondary, it's 5th in the country in opposing passer rating allowed.
Yeah.
Yes, DJU is on there. Peyton Thorne is on there.
Yep.
San Diego State's pretty bad on offense.
Yeah, but it seems like that the pass rush combined with your DBs is an area of strength. And in this game, playing Cam Ward this weekend, I hope it's a strength, because that is something that even with as well as I thought we played at times, and me and Sam will get into our VT recap after we hang up with Rob, Miami's so damn good. They're gonna put up yards and points. And so you got to be in the backfield, defensive backfield especially, you got to be on your P's and Q's.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's going for us is the fact that we have played Cam Ward before and we have played Damian Martinez before.
Good point. Yeah.
And I think having that tape on them, just them as players, and offenses are totally different, but having them and trying to and understanding what their tendencies are, and having played them before in just last year alone, having played those two, I think is not an advantage, but it I think helps in the preparation for it, where you're not totally prepping for someone new. And so that it's going to be very interesting, because we played Cam Ward pretty well last year. He gave up, I think he had 3 touchdowns and an interception, but then we forced 3 fumbles off of him. So if
he had some uh-ohs, Sam.
Yeah,
he's an quarterback. No matter what Miami fans want to think,
he's a whoopsie daisy guy.
Yeah. Yep.
And speaking of quarterbacks, your quarterback Mendoza, he has played decent, especially against Auburn. I thought he played well, but he's not without his warts.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on his performance so far this season? Do you think he's still growing?
Yeah, I think he's definitely still growing. I think he spent the summer at the Manning Passing Academy, which I think has helped his footwork significantly compared to last year as a freshman. But even last year, right, going into this year with the quarterback battle we had with him and Chandler Rogers, my devil's advocate point that I was making about both of those quarterbacks, and particularly with Mendoza, was last year's 3-game win streak to end the year, was that just a rise in form, or was that him actually taking a step in his maturity process? We just didn't know what if it was. And a lot of the times with these younger quarterbacks, for me, like I look for a game or a half where I can point to me like that's the ceiling. Like that's what we're gunning for. That's what we're hoping becomes the consistency. But we didn't have that with Mendoza last year. This year, I think that first half against Auburn was that moment for me where I was like, that's what we're looking for. The efficient passer, who can get a few more yards with his legs too when need be, and just organizing the offense and running it as our OC Mike Blush wanted to, with the run game being ahead of the pass game. And so I think he's taking those steps slowly. I think it's nice for him too, with him being from Miami. Like, there's going to be a little bit of that chip on his shoulder playing against the team that he went to games growing up. And so yeah, he's definitely taking that step up, and it's going to be interesting to see what his development looks like over the next few weeks.
I'm really excited for you guys in this weekend, because on our last show, Sam and I both said, if Miami beats Virginia Tech, which looked very likely a week ago, and then the game played out and it was close, but I said, regardless of margin, if Miami beats Virginia Tech, Cal is going to beat Miami, because that is ACC football. And it's bigger than that too. It's the traveling out, it's the coming down off an emotional game. It's all of that stuff. And you guys are a good football team. Like, I wouldn't say great, but Cal is a good, solid football team who plays good defense. Justin Wilcox prides himself on good defense. And we saw when we played Cam Ward, when he had to be pressured and wasn't playing a USF or even Florida this year, who's struggling, he struggled. He would make more mistakes. And I'll give Cam Ward credit, because he did what he had to do at the end of that game under immense pressure to drive down and win the game before the play that we will have to talk about later. And so I just feel like them coming down from that, you guys are in a favorable spot. I don't know if you'll win the game, but I do like the matchup for you. What do you think, Sam?
I like it. It's going to be really tough. And that's the thing where we talked about what could Virginia Tech do to win that game. It was Kyron's got to play out of his mind, and the defensive backs are going to have to make plays, because he hasn't really seen good defensive back play. And Tech's defensive backs did make plays. You get 2 interceptions. I thought they did a decent job holding Miami a bit, but you kind of have to, I don't want to say play perfect, but if we're looking back why Tech didn't win that game, it's literally like a fake field goal that didn't work, and
two or three
miss executed squib kick. Like, that's the reason Tech didn't win the game. And so Cal has a really big task, but I think it will help being in Berkeley. I think it will help that there will be a lot of energy around that game. And I think it'll also help that Cal is going to be an offense that's comfortable just running the ball, whether it's with Mendoza, whoever.
How's your O-line, Rob?
The O-line's not as good as we expected them to be. And we're kind of, banking on, we had great offensive line coaches in prior years, like Steve Greatwood, who came from Oregon. And we're kind of hoping that one of Greatwood's offensive line things was that those offensive lines got better as the season progressed. And we're kind of hoping that's the same thing here. Like the Florida State game, a big question that we had was, we started our center, Will McDonald, who's a transfer from Coastal Carolina, and Vadakani, who's been with us for years, who's probably our best offensive lineman. Both of them had not played for a few weeks. Vadakani hadn't played all year. And then we put them straight into the starting lineup. And, it was clear there were communication errors, not just with the pre-snap penalties, but just even handing off blocking assignments. And so our question coming out of that Florida State game was like, would it have been better if we just played the guys that had been playing with each other and just spotted them in moments instead of having them start? And that's the biggest question for us now is, if they're healthy, have we cleaned that up and the communication stuff and gelled them together over the last 2 weeks for those guys to be able to play? Like, it was a question of continuity versus talent. Will McDonald and Vadakani would have raised the talent floor, but they just haven't played with our entire line. And our left tackle, Nick Mara, who I think is going to be great, is his first year starting on the offensive line, and is a former tight end in high school who we gray shirted and then transformed into an offensive tackle. Like that.
We've done some of that over the years at Virginia Tech. Yeah, we know about that.
So we knew he was going to have growing pains. Like, it was going to take time for him to get there. So that's going to be a key thing for Miami too, is when they come out there, are we eliminating the pre-snap penalties? I think if you guys watched our Florida State game, we had first and 10 on their 11, and 2 false start penalties pushes us back to 1st and 20, instead of it being.
And that's the difference, though, with being at home too.
Mhm.
That like little things like that, you would hope you'd see less. What a complex and nuanced answer. When I asked you about the O-line, that was really good stuff, man.
I'm glad I know my stuff. I'm glad I can impress my new friends from the ACC.
Are you a Cal graduate?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, he's a smart guy. What's the plan for Saturday? Are you going? You're going. I assume you're going to the whole 9 yards, like all day. It's a late kickoff. I mean, it's like a 10:30 kickoff.
Yeah, for you guys, it's a 10:30 kickoff, and that's kind of what we're hoping helps us, because by the time we start the second half, Miami's body clocks are past midnight. So
that's a good point.
Fingers crossed that helps.
Well, it is Miami. Like they just start going out at midnight.
That is also true too. That is also true too. Yeah.
What's the tailgate scene like? Do people? Is it a wine and cheese crowd? Because I made that joke about Stanford. I've been to a game at Stanford. I've never been to Berkeley.
Yeah.
Would you say it's a little bit more rough around the edges at Berkeley, or is it still pretty buttoned up?
There's a few tailgates that are definitely more buttoned up, but our campus is integrated with the city, so it's not like we have these large parking lots or spaces to be able to do a lot of these tailgates. We fortunately have had the blessing of having a tailgate with our staff and our writers, and it's grown significantly over the last couple of years. So that's where our tailgate is, and people come by all the time to say hello and all of that. And so that's our tailgate scene. But with game day in there, it throws a huge. Do we take a nap after game day? Game day's at 6, so.
That's nuts. That is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I'll have a press credential to take pictures and stuff. Hopefully, and that's my role on game days. I'm on the field taking pictures, so hopefully we get that. So I'm there. I think the pit opens like an hour before they go live at 6, so guys will be lining up. I know most of our staff will probably be lining up around 4:30 ish for that, and then. Game day happens until 9. Then everyone heads home for a nap if your home's close enough. Some guys actually got a hotel room around Berkeley for Friday night into Saturday afternoon, and then tailgate starts around 4, and we got a bunch of things planned for that, and then kickoff at 7:30. So.
What a long day. I am jealous, dude, because that sounds. We remember those game day days. Our last game day, Sam, I think was 2017.
Clemson 2017. Yep.
It's still the image if you're on YouTube TV, it's still the image of them at Virginia Tech from 2017.
Cool. But before you go, Rob, I do have to ask you with tailgating and stuff like that.
Sure.
Explain to the people who don't know what Tightwad Hill is.
So if you look at a picture of our stadium, first of all, our stadium is built on a fault line. There is an active fault line that goes through the
How California
stadium.
Of you.
From end zone to end zone. Two fun facts. When the OA team walks out of the locker room, there is a placard on the wall immediately as you exit that tells you what to do in case of an emergency of an earthquake. Just to kind of mess with the minds a little bit.
That's pretty good.
And then also, if you go to the north end zone, there is a strip of turf that kind of like zigzags. That is... and it's a different color. They actually did that on purpose that it's the actual fault line that's there. And it moves ever so tiny, I think maybe less than a millimeter every year, where they have to actually fill in the black pellets because it's shifting just a little bit. So those are fun facts. So because of that, there's a mountain range basically in the hills behind the stadium. There's one particular hill that overlooks into the stadium. So a lot of the fans go up there, and that's where they watch the games. It's a great view of the game. You get, full end zone to end zone views. And so that's where a lot of fans, who don't buy tickets to the games, that's where they go up and watch. But also right off to the side of it is also the victory cannon. So every time we score a touchdown or a field goal, the cannon goes off, which is done by the rally committee, which is the school spirit organization. So that's what Tightwad Hill is, and it's a beautiful view. There's a C that's painted in gold. There's a lot of back and forth when we have big game week where Stanford frats come and they paint it red, and then we have to paint it back, and a lot of that stuff. But yeah, it's an amazing view, an amazing site. It's just part of California.
Well, look, we are going to be rooting for you. I'll just share these last couple images as we're getting out of here. We got the Hurricanes getting off the plane and the critical race theory book.
Woke versus Coke is the new rivalry here.
Woke versus Coke, and then this was the image that I feel like really made the rounds: the communists versus convicts, which is like, it's funny because convicts is us making fun of Miami. Communists is you guys making fun of yourselves.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, there's a clip. You guys can probably find it if you guys haven't. Like when we played at Ole Miss a few years ago, it's like right before a ball is snapped for an offensive play, you just hear an Ole Miss fan just yell out like "F you commies," like it's so hearable. And so we've basically just springboarded off of that
and from Tightwad Hill to these images that I've shared on the screen, like you guys are not afraid to make fun of the, I'll say like nerd nature.
Yeah, we lean into it.
It's totally leaned into, and it's cool. And now it's a part of the ACC. So this, as time goes on, and eventually Virginia Tech and Cal will have their meeting. We're going out there. Like us and Miami are both making the same trip after that weekend. We're playing Stanford this weekend, the birthplace of Tech. What better weekend for Tech to have a big win is us against Stanford. But good luck this weekend, Rob. Thank you so much for coming on with us. If you got anything to plug, like you said, Right for Cal is the website, right?
Yeah, Right for Cal is our website. That's where all our written stuff is. It's a great community. So if you want to come in there and banter with us, we've said that anyone we don't play in football this year is off our radar. So we won't come at you, Virginia Tech fans. If you
that's why I had us shaking hands in the first image.
We were telling Oregon State fans today who were like in our mentions, we're like, wait your turn. Like, wait your turn. We play you in a few weeks.
It was how do I get in there and make it about us was the Oregon State thing. Exactly. I saw that today. That was funny.
So, Virginia Tech fans, we'll have fun with you guys next year.
That sounds great, dude. All right.
But thanks for the time, guys.
Absolutely, man. And best of luck for the rest of the season. And hopefully we'll talk to you soon, Rob. Have a good one.
All right. Go Bears.
See you, man.
That was a lot of fun.
Quintessential college football in Northern California.
I mean, listen, that just some guys that like Southwest Virginia football hanging out with a guy that loves Berkley football. I mean, what can you do? Let's get to our ad read and then we'll go to VT Corner. As I said at the top of the show, College Football Monday is brought to you by Jack and Coke. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke. The #1 cocktail in the world is now available in a can. It's true. Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey mixed with Coca-Cola or Coca-Cola Zero are available in a can at your local grocery and convenience stores. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke, ready to drink. That's that RTD. You'll hear that terminology. That's what it means. It means it's a mixed drink in the can, ready to go in the grocer's fridge, the liquor store's fridge. So as always, when you're grabbing those Jacks and Cokes, make sure you are drinking responsibly. VT Corner, Sam. Or do we want to do a beer break? Are you having a Jack and Coke? What is that?
No, this is the last of a Devil's Backbone 16 pack I had. This is the big boy, the 16-point Imperial IPA.
Oh, nice. You might need it now that we're getting into the good stuff. So VT Corner, devastating loss to Miami, 38-34. It was a long game. And I'm not just talking about because of that last review. The whole game lasted like 4 hours. It took forever to get through. And there were so many things that happened. And tonight, Sam and I are going to get into the big couple of bullets, and we'll cover more later on. But the beginning of the game was awesome. Like, we came out, we were fighting, we got the turnover, and then it swung Miami's direction because Cam Ward was hitting every pass. They were beautiful, right in the pocket kind of passes. And then he threw that interception. And it was exactly what you had talked about. Like, he will make these mistakes. And it wasn't even that we had great pressure that play. He just made a mistake. And it changed the whole tenor of the game. And from then on, it was back and forth.
Yeah, it was a great football game. I think both teams played pretty well. Like, Cam Ward had some mistakes. He had the fumble. Defensively, I think Miami showed what a lot of people's fears were with Miami, where they have a lot of individual talent, but they sometimes allow big plays. I think it's a really, really disappointing night for Virginia Tech, considering that I think they were in control for a good amount of that game, and they had multiple opportunities to go up by not just 2 scores, but 3 scores at points. To get an interception return all the way down to the opponent's 17 and not get any points out of that.
And did you see the clip today about the tackle on that play?
Yeah.
I had not noticed that before. Arroyo, the tight end, ran all the way back to tackle Caleb Spencer. And what a play by him.
I mean, that was because the game would have been not over, but like Virginia Tech could have ran the ball, milked the clock, picked up a couple first downs, and Miami wouldn't have had a shot to win the game if that's a touchdown. I think this national show, keep it national, it is Miami is still really good, but they are not perfect. And Virginia Tech is a much better, more talented team than they played the first few games. However, they still have real issues winning close games. Brent Pry is now 1-10 in 1-score games, 0-3 this year. And there's a reason for it. There are just too many times where Virginia Tech loses a game because of in-game coaching decisions.
Yeah.
And I thought this game, 2 of them, like Tech ran 2 trick plays. Both of them failed miserably. One of them ended in an intentional grounding. One of them ended in 0 points off of that. And
I still don't understand that intentional grounding call.
So it is, and it's the right call. Only the player who receives the snap can throw the ball away.
Interesting.
Because if you handed the ball off to a running back and he was about to get tackled for a 5-yard loss, he could just throw the ball out of bounds. So it was the right call, and I'm kind of surprised Brent Pry didn't know that rule, but whatever. But that's like, it's one of those plays, like that play has worked for Virginia Tech in the past. They scored a touchdown with it last year. Okay, like cool, have that play. But you're in field goal range. It's already 2nd and long. And you call that play, and you know if that play doesn't work, it's either going to be 3rd. At best case, if that play doesn't work, it's 3rd and long. Worst case, it's an interception, or it's a big loss of yardage like that because he just has to eat it. So I'm like, why are you calling that on 2nd and long, knowing that if it doesn't work, it's going to set you up in a really bad spot? Why are you not taking free points off of the turnover? And if you are going to fake the field goal, and we talked about this, but if you are going to fake the field goal, cool. I said it in the pregame, like you got to go for it. Field goals aren't going to win it.
We both did. We wanted to be aggressive in the game.
But why are you running it behind your worst blocker?
Okay. But he wasn't the only one that got blown up on that play. I mean, there were 2 guys that knifed their way into the backfield. And so here's my thing. We wanted to be aggressive. They were up 10. And we'll talk about this, and then we'll talk about the end of the game, and then we'll kind of peter our way out and get out of here, because I don't want to do too much VT Corner before we get to our playoff stuff, because we're going to cover this all on the 2 Deep show. But I wanted us to not be Kentucky against Georgia. That's what I wanted. I didn't want to kick field goals and lose.
Yeah.
And the call was good. Like, it was actually a good call. It just didn't, the execution wasn't there from the offensive line. And people's points that if you're going to do that, and you just said it, give it to Tootin. Run a regular offensive play. Give it to Drones. Let him try to run. Nevertheless, I didn't have a problem with it. And the idea that, we gave up 3 points there, and if we had those 3 points at the end of the game and whatnot, so many things happened between that point and then. Like, so let's not do that, because if you change the score and we have that 13-point lead, Miami could have played things differently and whatever. In the moment, I was fine with the call. I can go either way on taking the points, because sometimes you take the points and it helps you, and other times it makes you look like a coward later on. And so I thought it was a gutsy call, and I don't have a problem with it.
Yep, I think it's one of those. If it works, it's the greatest call ever. If it doesn't, it's a terrible call. And you know what? You're gonna have those. The squib kick. First and foremost, it was a horribly executed squib kick, right? That squib kick either needs to hit somebody in the face in the second line, or it needs to go all the way to the end zone and be directionally kicked away from one of the returners. It was kicked directly at a returner so that they could get a running start. The player got a running start, and because of that, the kickoff coverage wasn't set up in their lanes. So he basically had no one in front of him for another 15 yards after he already caught it at the 15-yard line. So it was just really poorly
and he should have never
executed.
been squib kicking it anyway, because our kicker's kicking it for a touchback.
Kick it to the Atlantic Ocean at that point, dude.
I mean, we're getting a touchback almost
it's
every time.
50, what is it? 50, how much time did they have left? Not a lot. 25 seconds with one timeout. Make them go 50 yards with that.
The bigger issue, Sam, was us not running the clock down before we kicked our field goal. Yeah. I mean, that was the bigger issue. We called a timeout to kick a field goal, and we could have ran it down more.
I think Brent Pry doesn't. Defensive coach has never really had to worry about game clock like that in his life, has never had to call timeouts like that in his life. I don't think he is good at gauging clock.
You don't think so?
They need somebody next to him.
He's Mike London levels right now. And listen, I'm not hammering Pry too much, because ultimately there was a few coaching errors throughout the game that, yes, you could say they cost us the game, but we played a great game. Coaching pluses got us into a position. What I'm trying to say is, like, yeah, you can blame Brent Pry for some mistakes, but I don't think you can really blame the coordinators too much in this one. And we played pretty mistake-free, save for a few things here and there. And the clock management at the end of the half, the clock management at the end of the game, it was bad. And
I think Tech is still having a big issue with every mistake they make seems to be amplified. Like the Kyron Drones interception was a really bad throw. I mean, he missed that by 4 yards. And
he's got to be more accurate.
Yeah, that's picked off. Miami gets the ball on their own side of the field. They score 7 points off that. Yet another turnover on your own side of the field that the opponent goes for a touchdown off of every single time. Virginia.
Well, wait, are you talking about the interception that was volleyed by our wide receiver right into the hands of Miami?
The ball was way behind him, though.
Still, but you don't have to volley it to the other team.
Yeah, I mean, you would like to catch it, considering they gave you sticky gloves,
or drop it straight down. There are other options here.
Hey, dude, I don't know. Amari Cooper basically gift wrapped and dressed up as Santa Claus to give the ball to the Raiders this weekend.
Listen, I know you're a volleyball guy, but I don't want to be like tapping it to the other team.
But it's still the same point. Like, every mistake Tech makes ends up in a touchdown for the other team.
I know. And even if the mistake wasn't on Kyron, it was on Green.
Right. And we hear so much. It's like you lose big, and then you lose small, and then you win small, and then you win big. And I think we were a bit clouded by playing some opponents that just weren't very good. Like Pitt, Wake Forest, Syracuse, Virginia, BC. I don't think those are very good teams last year. Tulane was a mess. Like, Tech was losing big to these teams last year. They got crushed by Florida State. They got crushed by Louisville. They got crushed by Rutgers. This is their lose close. Like, Vanderbilt's probably a bowl decent team. Lose close. Rutgers, decent team. Lose close. Miami, very, very good team. National title contending team. Lose close. The trajectory isn't as off as people think. I think what is so damning of this coaching staff is that after these games, everyone is pointing the finger at them with a whole lot of evidence backing it up. And that for me is the part.
We're kind of avoiding the headline here, which was the end of the game.
I'm avoiding it. Yeah.
It's been talked about so much already. It's only Monday night, but it's been talked about so much already. I'm sure some of our listeners have already heard every single angle of the reaction. But what it comes down to is that they called it a touchdown, and there was not enough evidence by almost anyone's estimation to overturn it. Godfrey said on Split Zone Duo, it was the right call, but the process was wrong. And that is exactly probably right. I do
Tom
push back
Pernelli,
a little
Josh
bit
Pate said the same thing
on the call being right, because I don't think anyone knows exactly what happened, because Felton's ass is on the ground. The ball is not on the ground. Someone has possession of that ball. Now, whether that person is out of bounds or in bounds, I guess then that becomes the question. And to me, Felton's butt is on the ground and the tie goes to the receiver.
Yeah.
And so I'm not so sure the call was right in the end. And
I think
especially the process was completely wrong.
I think one thing there is, okay, let's back up. I think there is evidence there that Felton has possession of the ball and he is down in bounds. And once a player has possession and they are down in the end zone, or they are stretching the ball across the plane, the play is dead, right? So if you're a running back and you're diving, you cross the plane, it gets knocked out. If that ball is in your control and cross the plane, you're good, because you have you have possession on the ground. If you are a wide receiver and you catch the ball and you are in bounds, like, the play is dead. What I think ended up hurting Tech was, I don't think those officials ever thought it was a touchdown. I think they ruled it as a touchdown so that it would get automatically reviewed. Because if they rule that incomplete or interception, it does not get automatically reviewed.
That's a very interesting theory, Sam.
I don't think they ever thought it was a touchdown.
They weren't sure.
And here's the thing too, the ruling that they came out with, and no, they weren't sure. I mean, none of those guys had a clue. And to be honest, like, I don't know how they would. That's what makes the whole
process dumb, is because
it's really
there should be a way to just like defer, right? Like officials on the field cannot figure it out. We defer to replay. Like, that should be a thing that the coaches vote on this summer, because now you've made us feel like we were cheated, and we were, by the letter of the law.
Well, also, especially because it was very clear the Virginia Tech player is the player who made the better play. Like, Felton went up and got that ball, caught it, and was coming down with the ball.
And whether he completed the catch or not, and listen, there was not a completed catch that I saw on video. And I would agree that if they had ruled it incomplete, no problem. I get it. Miami guy comes out with it.
Yeah.
It was whatever. But, like, he brought it down. They called it a touchdown. His butt's on the ground. I think out of bounds player having a hand on it, does that matter if the tie goes to the receiver?
I don't see. That's what I don't get. So I think that rule is in effect because if there is like a fumble on the sidelines and a player from out of bounds touches the ball, it is like a dead ball.
Yeah, but that's different.
But that's where the rule is, and it is different. I've never really seen it applied to a catch in the end zone.
Especially when all the guys are laying down, like, and his butt is literally on the ground.
And two things. When Kyron let go of that ball, I immediately said he threw it too far. Like, I immediately said, I was like, that ball's out the back of the end zone. It's too far, because they did it with the Aiden Green one too. We don't talk about that. One, that was pass interference, but two, that was a foot away from being a touchdown. And that is getting overshadowed because Green caught that ball and he is literally only a foot out of bounds.
And he got shoved.
And he got shoved. It should have been a defensive
PI.
His
foot almost comes down. If he doesn't get shoved, I think one of his feet comes down in bounds.
There should have been a horse collar on that drive as well. They were terrible.
And we could go on for an hour talking about this. We're going to save that mostly for the next show, but a lot of mistakes, a lot of referee mistakes. It was a weird, wonky game.
One thing on the replay official, and I think I brought this up in a group chat, in the Army Temple game, there was an interception on the sidelines that they were going to replay. They brought in Matt Austin, who's the officials guy for ESPN. And I think he had a bit of a slip up. And Matt Austin said, well, I feel like it's an incomplete pass, but I don't see anything on the replay. But the replay officials might feel that way too. And the commentators pushed back and they were like, oh, well, if there's no video, like, you can't just guess that it's an incomplete pass if there's no video. And he had to like walk it back really quick because it was pretty clear that he said, hey, if the vibes are incomplete as an official, I might just call it incomplete if that's how I see it. I feel like
that's
when you watch
how the rules are supposed to work.
It's not how it should work. And I feel like if you watch that play, you don't get the vibes that it's a catch.
No,
The
you don't.
vibes are that
You
it's
don't.
incomplete. And I think they went with the vibes of the play and not what the film was showing them.
And Sam,
that is what
in
is
general, I wish that's how it worked. I wish
if Miami's the one catching that ball, that's a touchdown.
I said the same thing with Dan yesterday.
Like-
like if Miami is on the flip side and they come down with it and they're at home and they're 4-0, about to be 5-0, guess what? The officials magically think that's a catch.
Yeah.
And that's the part where, like, I don't like the conspiracy theory stuff. I don't think it was clearly some kind of like ACC thing, but the optics just aren't good. Like you're going to the ACC control center in Charlotte. They're looking at it. It's taken forever. The officials called it a touchdown. The announcers are on our side, and they come out and they do to Virginia Tech what we knew they were going to do. I just knew it. Like when it was taking that long, I just knew they were going to screw us over.
I've been a Virginia Tech fan my entire life. My first game was when I was 6 months old. This is the worst, most heartbreaking month of Virginia Tech football of my life. And we'll talk about it more on the 2 Deep podcast Wednesday night.
You know, I've had my most heartbreaking month. It is not this month. We can talk about it later, but I appreciate that about you, Sam. And I think one of the reasons why, and I discussed this with Billy Ray earlier today, you are in your age and your fandom.
Yeah.
You're in that mode where like you are living through the most painful and the most joyful times of your sports life. That's what being a 20-something is. That just is what it is. The Phillies won the World Series when I was 24, and it was the greatest freaking thing that ever happened to me. And Virginia Tech lost some really bad games back in 2010, and it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And so I feel it, man. I feel your pain. I've been there. And I'm pissed off about what happened on Monday night. I was so angry after the game. And I am proud, though, and this should be the takeaway.
Absolutely.
I am proud of the way the guys played because they were, at one point, almost 3 touchdown underdogs.
Yeah.
And they should have won the ball game. And so shout out to our players. We will get into it more and more on Wednesday night. Let's talk about what we're drinking. You talked about what you had. Let me tell the listeners, I'm drinking the Greater Pumpkin. I'm drinking pumpkin beer from here until Kingdom Come. Well, at least until the end of October, because I got a bunch of them. I put them on our Instagram. I'm drinking the Heavy Seas Greater Pumpkin. And this is one of those ones that they brew in the bourbon barrels. And let me tell you something. It's got some ass to it. And if you're a beer drinker, you kind of know what I mean by that. It's got that powerful, like the first sip was like, they threw me for a little bit of a loop because I didn't know this was one of those bourbon barrel boys. And it's very, very good. And the thing with these bourbons is after the first 1 or 2 sips, it gets better and better and better. Like the first one's kind of harsh. And then once you're into it, and it's good. And Heavy Seas does make a pretty good beer.
Yeah, this 16 point is tough, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
I would recommend.
We got balloons now.
I'm probably gonna give the Greater Pumpkin. It's solid. It's not great. I'm gonna give it 3.75. I like bourbon barrel beers, but some people love them. They are just like, they're everything. That's not me. I enjoyed it. It's good. I'm going to do another 8 to a dozen over the next month. So I'm sorry if you guys don't like pumpkin beer. Maybe Sam will have some non-pumpkins and some pumpkins, but I'm going to stay pretty consistent.